Welcome to SATV News. This is Riaz Mahmood with our headlines. Preparations for the 30th National Parliamentary Election and referendum completed. Nearly 1 million law enforcers deployed ahead of polls. No scope for election engineering this time, warns Mirza Fakhrul. A party often engages in propaganda using religion. Election situation under control so far, says EU chief observer. Describes the polls' atmosphere as encouraging. Now in details. Nearly 1 million members of law enforcement agencies have been formally deployed across the country to maintain law and order ahead of the 30th National Parliamentary Election and referendum on February 12. The second phase of the nationwide security deployment began and will remain in force until February 14, covering the period before, during and after polling. The personnel include members of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Police, Border Guard Bangladesh, Rapid Action Battalion, ANSA and VDP, Coast Guard and other auxiliary forces. According to Election Commission statistics, 9,70,948 security personnel are to be engaged in election duty from today. In addition, 1,051 executive magistrates have been deployed and will remain in the field until February 14 to oversee law and order and electoral compliance. From guarding polling centers to operating mobile and striking forces, the deployed personnel will work under the authority of the respective returning officers. Members of the armed forces have also been placed under the in aid to civil power provision to assist local civil administrations in maintaining stability. Inspector General of Police Baharul Alam today said any weapon poses a threat during national elections. He made the remarks while responding to questions from journalists at a press conference held at the Police Headquarters Media Center on the overall law and order situation ahead of the national parliamentary elections. Asked about the firearms looted from police stations, the IGP said any weapon is a threat. He added that illegal arms enter the country through various routes and that law enforcement agencies have taken comprehensive measures to address the issue. Regarding licensed firearms, Baharul Alam said that following a directive from the Home Ministry, 27,995 legal weapons have so far been deposited by their owners. The number of weapons that have not been deposited is not significant. Some may be kept in lockers at home or abroad. The number of such cases is very small, he said. He further said strict restrictions have been imposed on licensed firearms to ensure the 30th National Parliamentary Election is free, fair and peaceful. BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir today said there is no scope for engineering in the national election as government officials and employees are expected to discharge their duties properly to ensure free, fair and credible voting. He made the remarks while speaking to reporters at his residence in Thakurgaon today. BNP has been carrying out a movement for the restoration of democracy for the last 16 years and expressed optimism that the February 12 election would help restore people's voting rights and democracy, he said. If the election is held in a free and fair manner, it will create a major opportunity for reforming the state, Mr. Fakhrul added. Regarding the acceptability of the election results, the BNP Secretary General said his party has always accepted election outcomes. Referring to BNP's rivals, including Jamaat, Fakhrul said a party often engages in propaganda using religion. They are trying to spread disinformation through various campaigns, he added. BNP Election Committee spokesperson Dr. Mahdi Amin today said our party is attempting to buy votes nationwide in the upcoming election due to fears of inevitable defeat. Speaking at a press conference at BNP's Gulshan office, Dr. Amin alleged that the party is planning fake votes, exploiting religion for electoral gains and conspiring to create chaos at polling stations. He said BNP would formally lodge complaints with the Election Commission over any code of conduct violations. Dr. Amin claimed that BNP enjoys widespread popular support and said the surge in favor of the party's Dhanir Sheesh symbol would ensure a decisive victory in a free and fair election. He stressed that BNP would accept the results of a fair election and urged all political parties to maintain peace and order during voting to allow citizens to exercise their franchise safely. Announcement of poll results at centres with postal ballots which are in custody of returning officers in various constituencies during the 30th National Parliamentary election may take comparatively longer than other centres. Election Commission Secretariat Senior Secretary Akhtar Ahmed said this today at the inauguration of the media centre set up jointly by the EC and the Ministry of Information at the Intercontinental Hotel in the capital for foreign journalists during the election period. Akhtar Ahmed further said efforts are being made to manage the process efficiently. Explaining the reason for the delay, the EC Secretary said that due to the structural nature of postal ballot papers, they may need to be verified multiple times. While this could cause some delay, he assured that it would not under any circumstances become excessively prolonged. The head of the European Union Election Observation Mission has said the election situation in Bangladesh is under the control of state authorities so far as the mission begins full-scale observation of the upcoming national elections. Responding to a question at a press conference today, Mission Chief Ivars Izabs said the EU's assessment was based on discussions with security agencies and local stakeholders across the country. The press conference marked the deployment of the EU mission's short-term observers, formally launching the bloc's full-scale election observation activities in Bangladesh. Asked about the overall voting environment, Ijabs described the atmosphere as encouraging. On concerns regarding minority communities, Ijabs said the issue had been raised with the government both during and before the election campaign. The EU Election Observation Mission has deployed 90 short-term observers who will monitor election day activities across all 64 districts. Their work will include observing the opening of polling stations, voting, closing procedures, ballot counting, and the tabulation of results. These observers will be present in almost every city, town, and village, Ijabs said. Viewers, we're taking a short break. Stay with us.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 Roberts Lane, Singapore 218302. Phone 0065 629 24900. বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby, blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant. Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool.
Welcome back. You are watching SATV News. Now, news from abroad. Israeli soldiers killed 7 more Palestinians, including a child and a woman, and injured many others in several parts of the devastated and besieged Gaza Strip, said medical sources. 3 Palestinians, including 1 woman, were killed and several others injured near Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. According to medical teams, an Israeli drone fired a missile at an electric bike near the Al-Musaddar village, killing 2 Palestinians. They added that a woman was also killed by fire from an Israeli military quadcopter in the same village. 4 Palestinians were also killed in an Israeli strike that targeted an apartment in the Al-Nasr neighborhood of Gaza City, as Israeli forces continued widespread bombardment, home demolitions and ground fire across several areas of the Strip. An Israeli Apache helicopter fired a missile at the apartment, killing 4 Palestinians from the town of Beit Hanun, including a young girl and her father. Hundreds of protesters have gathered outside a police station in Sydney to condemn the police response to a demonstration against Israeli President Isaac Herzog, held just a day before. Police began blockading the perimeter of Harmony Park next to Surrey Hills Police Station at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, just before a rally was set to take place. The Palestine Action Group organized the rally after violent clashes erupted between officers and protesters at Monday evening's protest, which led to 27 arrests and 9 people charged. The group called for the resignation of NSW Premier Chris Minns and for all charges against the protesters to be dropped. Venezuelan Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello defended on Monday the rearrest of opposition politician Juan Pablo Guanipa, saying the violated conditions of his release just hours after being freed from prison. 897 people have been released and nothing had happened. They left and met with their families until the illustrated stupidity of some politicians who believed they can do whatever they want and disrupt the country, violating the very conditions under which they were given freedom. Cabello, who is also first vice president of the ruling Socialist Party, told in a press conference. However, Guanipa's son, Ramon Guanipa, described the incident as a kidnapping, saying his father was seized by armed men in civilian clothes just hours after his prison release. Before being detained, Guanipa had celebrated with supporters in a plaza and participated in a motorcycle caravan calling for the release of other political prisoners. On Sunday, the incident occurred amid broader releases of political prisoners in Venezuela following pressure from the United States, with rights group Foro Penal reporting 383 political prisoners freed since January 8. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum confirmed on Monday that crude oil shipments from her country to Cuba have been halted while Mexico seeks ways to resume them following U.S. threats to impose tariffs on nations supplying oil to the Caribbean island. Speaking during a press conference in Mexico City, Sheinbaum said the oil shipments are currently suspended as Mexico works to avoid harm to itself while seeking diplomatic solutions to deliver fuel to Cuba. Two vessels carrying more than 800 tons of humanitarian aid departed Mexico on Sunday to support the island, and Sheinbaum announced that additional assistance, primarily food, would be sent. The Mexican president criticized U.S. sanctions on countries selling oil to Cuba as very unjust, stating that ordinary people should not be affected regardless of political views about Cuba's government. Mexico became Cuba's largest oil supplier after Venezuelan shipments ceased following the U.S. blockade of Venezuelan tankers in December and the ousting of President Nicolas Maduro in early January. Armenia and the United States have signed an agreement on Monday to develop cooperation in the civilian nuclear sectors, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said in a statement made after talks and a signing ceremony with Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan in Yerevan. The deal includes the $5 billion in initial U.S. exports and additional $4 billion in fuel supply and maintenance, Vance said. Vance also said that the United States will sell military drone technology worth $11 million to Armenia. U.S. Vice President visits Armenia and Azerbaijan this week to push a Washington-brokered peace agreement that could transform energy and trade routes in the strategic South Caucasus region. Hong Kong leader John Lee said on Tuesday that media tycoon and democracy campaigner Jimmy Lai deserved the 20 years jail sentence handed down to him by a court this week after all the harm he has done. Lee was speaking a day after Hong Kong's most vocal China critic Lai was sentenced to 20 years in jail on 2 counts of conspiracy to collude with foreign forces and 1 for publishing seditious materials. Lai had denied all the charges against him, telling the court he was a political prisoner facing persecution from Beijing. His sentence, the heaviest so far under a China-imposed national security law, drew criticism from the United States, Britain, Taiwan, European Union, Japan, and rights groups. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian said on Monday that the new round of nuclear negotiations is an appropriate opportunity for a fair and balanced resolution of Tehran's nuclear issue, calling on the U.S. to avoid excessive demands. American and Iranian diplomats held indirect talks in Oman last week aimed at reviving diplomacy amid a U.S. naval buildup near Iran and Tehran's vows of a harsh response if attacked. Iranian officials have repeatedly ruled out putting Iran's missiles up for discussion and have said Tehran wants recognition of its right to enrich uranium. Nigel Farage, leader of Britain's Reform UK party, criticised Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Monday, warning that he won't be there for long as the fallout continued over the appointment of Peter Mandelson as ambassador to Washington. Earlier on Monday, Starmer rejected calls to resign, including from the leader of Labour in Scotland, after a second aide quit from a team already in crisis over Mandelson's appointment. Speaking at an event in Birmingham, Farage, whose party is leading in the polls, called the situation the biggest political scandal they have seen for 100 years. The scandal over Mandelson, who was sacked as ambassador to the United States in September, came after lies released by the U.S. Justice Department last month, including emails suggesting Mandelson had leaked discussions on possible UK asset sales and tax changes to abstain during the financial crash. Mandelson has not commented publicly on allegations he leaked documents and did not respond to messages seeking comment.
Spare a thought for Downing Street this afternoon.
U.S. Representatives Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie said the Epstein file they reviewed at the Department of Justice on Monday had already been redacted by the FBI and a grand jury. There is still a lot which has been redacted. People are seeing redacted versions. Khanna made their remarks while speaking to media after reviewing the files at the DOJ. Massie said he was bothered by seeing the names of at least 6 men redacted from the files, which he said were likely incriminating given their inclusion. Jeffrey Epstein, associate Ghislaine Maxwell, refused to answer questions at a deposition before the U.S. House's Committee on Oversight and Government Reform on Monday, according to lawmakers, drawing criticism from both Republican and Democratic members of the committee. Maxwell, who was found guilty in 2021 for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence, invoked her Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and declined to answer questions, lawmakers said after the deposition.
But what I saw that bothered me were the names of at least 6 men that have.
The United States military has carried out a lethal strike on a vessel in the Eastern Pacific Ocean, killing 2 people and leaving 1 survivor, U.S. Southern Command announced on Monday. The operation is a part of the broader campaign known as Operation Southern Spear, which targets suspected drug trafficking vessels in international waters. According to Southern Command, the lethal kinetic strike was directed at a boat it alleged was involved in drug trafficking, though the military was not publicly provided evidence linking to vessel to specific criminal activities. The command said that following the strike, the U.S. Coast Guard was notified in order to activate search and rescue operations for the survivor, whose current condition and order of rescue remain unclear. China's foreign ministry on Tuesday said there had been no reports of its citizens being stranded in Cuba due to airlines suspending flights to the country because of a jet fuel shortage following the U.S. blocking of shipments from Venezuela. China firmly supports Cuba in safeguarding its national sovereignty and security and opposes foreign interference, said Lin Jian, a foreign ministry spokesperson, during a regular conference. China will always provide support and help to the Cuban side to the best of our ability, he added. Cuba warned international airlines that jet fuel will no longer be available on the island beginning on Tuesday, in the latest sign of first worsening conditions as the United States moves to cut off the communist-run nation's oil supply. Before ending, we go through the headlines again. Preparations for the 30th National Parliamentary Election and referendum completed. Nearly 1 million law enforcers deployed ahead of polls. No scope for election engineering this time, warns Mirza Fakhrul. A party often engages in propaganda using religion. Election situation under control so far, says EU chief observer. Describes the polls atmosphere as encouraging. You are updated with our top stories so far here on SATV, and to know the latest news, visit www.satv.tv. Stay with SATV.